Well, hello friends, it's another edition of the Chiller Report here. And I'm going to do kind of a retrospective of the 2023 Vikings season. It seems like a lot of people have been claiming that if Kirk Cousins hadn't gotten hurt, the Vikings basically wouldn't have lost the rest of the season and would just be coasting to an inevitable Super Bowl championship. That may very well be true because there's no way to disprove that. These people, I think, feel that this is another sign the Vikings are cursed. It's like, oh, we were all set up for this championship season. Everything was coming together, and then Cousins gets hurt, and we're so cursed. And then if we don't re-sign Kirk Cousins, we'll never be a good football team again. Let's look at each game they've played this year. So week 1 against the Buccaneers, they lost 20-17. They put up 10 points in the first 3 quarters. I believe they started the game with 2 3-and-outs and 2 fumbles. Miserable performance offensively. Kirk Cousins put up like 350 yards passing, so the fanboys can point to that. But it wasn't a productive 350 yards. Okay, so it was not a good performance, and it looked like they lost a coin flip, and this was the type of coin flip game they were winning last year. Week 2 against the Eagles, they actually played pretty well the first half, and this is kind of a theme for the Vikings, playing well for a half. And then they come out in the second half. Cousins fumbles on the second play of the second half. Cousins is capable of fumbling. I don't know if people knew that. He's a fumbler. And then the Vikings go down 27-7. The game is basically over in the third quarter. And then Cousins puts up 3 late touchdown passes to pad his stats that all the fanboys can again point to and say, oh, he had a great game. You can't blame him, despite him fumbling on the second play of the second half when the game was still a game. Week 3 against the Chargers. Now really, mainly this comes down to one guy. Just that idiot Akayleb Evans. Vikings are leading. The defense is, of course, letting the Chargers drive down the field. But he has a sure interception in his hands. It bounces off and becomes a touchdown pass. Unfortunately, Cousins shows no leadership. He has no leadership at all. Stands there for like 20-30 seconds while the clock is running down, snaps it, throws an interception to end the game. But I put that really mostly on our idiot secondary. We always have an idiot to make a bad play. So whatever you think about Kirk Cousins and how great he was playing when he got hurt, we still have those idiots who are going to make those mistakes. Don't forget that. Week 4, Carolina, that was the first win the Vikings had. Cousins put up a whopping 129 yards passing. Terrible offensive performance. There were 2 interceptions. One was a pick 6, touchdown for the defense. The defense really won us that game in spite of our offense. So that's our first win of the year. Week 5 against the Chiefs, this is kind of like the Eagles game. You're playing a good team. You play them even for a half. Then again, it's kind of a theme in the third quarter. The defense kind of goes on hiatus. You're losing.
Am I going to show Taylor Swift? Is she there?
But then you fight back. The offense actually tried to come back. And this is a game where Cousins had him in position at the end to tie the game. And Alexander Mattison just dropped a screen pass that would have at least been a 1st and goal and may have been a touchdown. And that's, again, a theme. Like, it doesn't matter what you think about how good Kirk Cousins is. You have these idiots on the team who are going to screw up. You're going to have the Evanses. You're going to have the Mattisons. You're going to have the Greg Josephs. These idiots are going to screw you. So that plays into whether this team was going anywhere. Week 6, the Vikings put up 220 yards of offense and only 1 offensive touchdown. So this must have been a Josh Dobbs game. No, it was a Kirk Cousins game. But again, a defensive touchdown. They beat a bad Bears team at Soldier Field. Thanks to the defense. This is 2 games before Kirk Cousins gets hurt, okay, and the offense is doing nothing. Week 7, again, you're playing a good team, and you're playing pretty well. And actually, they really outplayed the 49ers, I thought, in this game for the most part. But they just couldn't put them away. And it ended up being a coin flip at the end. Purdy threw a couple interceptions late when the 49ers were within 1 score. Vikings did win the turnover battle +2 in that game. That helped, of course. Vikings look like the better team, but they're barely hanging on to it. This is the week before Cousins gets hurt. Now, the game where Cousins gets hurt, that's week 8 against the Packers. Vikings were really dominating. They went up 17-3, and then I think it was Metellus made this amazing interception, and then I think it was a 1 play. Just Cousins throws a touchdown pass to Addison on the next play to go up 24-3. And it's like, oh, they look great. Sort of like how they looked great against the 49ers the week before. But then the defense allows a long touchdown drive to make it 24-10. And then the Vikings are kind of driving, but they're at 3rd and 19. The offense is sputtered, and Cousins tears his Achilles. And then what happens on the next play? Greg Joseph makes this line drive kick into, like, I think the stomach of one of the Packers linemen. Kick is blocked. And they kind of hang on by the skin of their teeth. There's a couple turnovers, a couple defensive stops. But the point here is, it was 3rd and 19 when Cousins got hurt. They were not getting that first down. Greg Joseph was going to come on and get that kick blocked regardless. The Vikings were already kind of trying to turn this into a coin flip when Cousins got hurt. So week 9 against the Falcons, Jaren Hall gets hurt, and then Josh Dobbs makes a couple really bad plays, but then at the end he makes some amazing plays to pull this game out. Plays that Kirk Cousins couldn't make. And, maybe they don't win this game if Kirk Cousins plays. Hate to break it to you. That's a game they might not win if Kirk Cousins plays.
Fake to Mattison. Dobbs. He can't run this for 2. The throw is caught. Dobbs on 4th down. The pressure's coming. He gets away for the moment, but look out from behind. He's going to get the first down. He's going to get more than that.
Week 10, the Vikings are dominating the Saints through 2+ quarters. And what's the score? 27-3. They are dominating the way they were dominating the Packers 2 weeks earlier. But now it's Josh Dobbs at quarterback. So maybe it's not all the quarterback who's responsible for the domination. Maybe it's the team. And then they kind of go into their prevent offense mode with O'Connell. And of course the defense, the secondary, sort of like Akayleb Evans against the Chargers, just they whiff on a couple of prayers that Jameis Winston threw up that makes it end up being a 1-score game. It shouldn't have been that close, but it was. They're dominating, and then it turns into a coin flip. This is par for the course for the Vikings, with or without Kirk Cousins. Week 11, the Vikings are playing really well against the Broncos. They're up, I think, 17-9. Josh Dobbs has led them on a touchdown drive to start the second half, something that I don't know if Kirk Cousins has ever done. They take the lead, and then they're driving again. They're in Broncos territory, and Alexander Mattison fumbles. That sets in motion them losing, because then you have Russell Wilson throwing that prayer that Mekhi Blackmon whiffs on for the winning score. The Alexander Mattison fumble, that's like Alexander Mattison dropping the screen pass. Week 5 against the Chiefs. This guy is still there, whether you have Kirk Cousins, whether you have Josh Dobbs, whether you have Jaren Hall, whether you have Nick Mullins. The idiots like Alexander Mattison, Greg Joseph, Akayleb Evans, Mekhi Blackmon, they're going to be there to screw you. Week 12, the offense is terrible. Josh Dobbs throws 4 picks, and they lose at home, I think 12-10 to a really bad Bears team. This is a game where if Cousins had played, they almost certainly win. I think this is where also Kevin O'Connell really tried to force Dobbs into a certain way of a certain offensive style that didn't fit him. Week 13, they won 3-0. Both teams, no offense, terrible, ugly, and that was kind of the end, I think, of Josh Dobbs. Week 14, Bengals. It's a game they should have won. I think they had 17-3 again, jumping out to a lead, playing really well for 2 to 2.5 quarters, looking really good with or without Cousins, and then defense goes on hiatus. But the offense brings them down and scores to go up 24-17, and then defense just implodes again. And this time it wasn't Mekhi Blackmon. I don't know if it was Evans or Murphy or who it was, but Mekhi Blackmon was standing there like a statue as the Bengals receiver scored that touchdown. So this is a game they probably don't win if Cousins plays, because Cousins, they scored 24 points. That's about what they score with Cousins usually, or less. The secondary is still going to collapse. They lose that game with Cousins, probably. And then week 15 against the Lions. I mean, all you're willing to say here is they gave up 30 points in less than 3.5 quarters to the Lions. You're not going to win many games. With or without, how many times did Cousins put up 30 points this year? 0. So they were going to lose that with Cousins or without Cousins. Oh, Mullins threw 4 picks. Well, 2 of the picks, one was on a 4th down. The interceptions didn't really lead to points. The points came when, in the 3rd quarter, Mullins drives him down for a touchdown. The defense just allows 2 touchdown drives by the Lions. I mean, you look at all this, common themes are Vikings are jumping out to good-sized leads, playing really well for half the game, with or without Cousins in certain games. The defense collapsing in these games, or some idiot like Mattison fumbling in these games, or dropping a pass in these games. This is who this team is. This team will find a way to shoot itself in the foot if they get a lead. The idea that this was some great team that was going places if Cousins doesn't get hurt, no, it wasn't. Now, maybe they probably make the playoffs. They don't win the division. They make it as a wild card. And maybe they can win a wild card game. You never know. But they are so inconsistent. They're going to play one good game in the playoffs maybe. And then they'll come out and lay an egg. Sort of like 3-4 years ago when they beat the Saints at the Superdome, and then they played the 49ers and did nothing. That's what would happen. That's who this team is. And they start to believe they're better than they are all the time, especially on defense. And they don't bring the intensity. And you say, well, they wouldn't have had those games where Dobbs was doing nothing. They wouldn't have had the 4 interceptions from Mullins. They wouldn't have had the 3-0 game against the Raiders. They wouldn't have lost 12-10 to the Bears. Well, go look at your Vikings history. Go back to last year when the Vikings they were winning all those games, winning all those coin flips. And then they played Dallas at home. They got their asses kicked 40-3. No defense and no offense. Kirk Cousins played that game. 3 points. 3 points. And how about that game at Lambeau Field last year? Was it like 3 points in the first half? I don't even remember. They couldn't do anything. Kirk Cousins played that game. Anyone who thinks Kirk Cousins isn't capable of laying an egg the way these other guys have laid eggs. Maybe he doesn't throw as many interceptions, but he can fumble or he can turtle. Point is, this was not some great team. You are not cursed. Get the heck over yourself. And this team is not going to be a nothing team if we don't re-sign Cousins. Because what we need is better leadership on this team, which we don't get from Cousins. We need better leadership on the defense. We need players in that locker room who are leaders, not the Everson Griffins. We need stable people. And we can't have our toughest guy be a wide receiver, because that's where we're at. Our toughest guy on this team is Justin Jefferson. We need our toughest guys to be offensive linemen and linebackers. That's what we need. We need some mental toughness. And you're not going to find that shopping at Kohl's or Sam's Club.